So during break, we started talking and kind of wandering into the advanced GWT stuff, which I'm not going to provide examples of, but I did want to point something out. So in our this code that we're writing here for level editor, there's a lot of Java to create all the widgets and configure all the widgets and things like that. And yeah, there's a lot of code here. And with proper refactoring stuff, it isn't that bad. If you have method names that are easy to understand and convey what they do, it's not so bad. But it can get a little busy. So I'm going to close that for the time being. So in later versions, as GWT evolved, one of the things they did was introduce this concept of a UI binder, which is you've got, instead of writing your UI in Java code, you declare your UI in XML, which is actually has some advantages because XML is hierarchical. You can say things like, okay, great, here I've got a horizontal panel, and inside that horizontal panel I've got a bunch of cells, and there's like a text box here, and there's a label here, there's another text box, there's a button, and things like that. And then you give these widgets, and you can do things like, say, hey, here's the visible length of my text box. And then you can give the widgets names. And so what you end up with is this declarative UI.xml file to specify here's what my widgets look like. And then you have a corresponding Java class called division view. And there are magical annotations that the GWT compiler knows about that will wire up things from your UI.xml file. So for instance, the text box here, dividend, will get injected, will get assigned into this field right here in your Java class because it has this UI field annotation on it. So like when you start doing GWT for realsies, yeah, you want to use this because it's instead of having like all this Java code to configure things, it's actually at the end of the day easier to read and update and interpret this UI.xml file than it is to go through a bunch of Java code. This is all covered in the advanced lecture, which I don't have a screencast for. But I do have the slides up. So anyway, and this is cool stuff. Oh, and here's like some style name stuff, which apparently worked at one point. So yeah, because we're talking about how you can add styles to things too. Oh, maybe I didn't have it named correctly. Oh, right. And here's like another thing you can do. The styles were declared up here in like this UI style section of the XML file. And then GWT compiler sort of like is really smart about then saying, okay, great, this error class here gets injected into the division view as like this division style thing. And anyway, more detail I wanted to go in right now. If like maybe you're like one of those people that has like finished the assignment or like wants to go a little beyond, I encourage you to do the advanced stuff. For us mere mortals, let's stick to this. Okay, cool. So hope you had a nice break. Any thoughts, encouragement? So everybody came back. Awesome, thank you, appreciate it. Maybe just more comfortable to rest here than it is at home. The soothing voice of the soothing nasally voice of your professor. Anyway, okay. So where are we at? So we've got this much. Now I want to add a button down here below. So going back to our diagram that we drew, I want to add a button that when you click it, takes the contents of the text area and creates a new game so you can play it. Okay, lots of stuff going on there. Let's see how far we can get. So first things first, let's add the button. So let's go back up here to the top, and now we're going to add. We're going to say create, what do I call it? Save and play button. Sure is widget. Okay, and so like let's return new button, save and play. Okay, let's go and reload. Oh, it blew up. Unsupported operation. This panel does not support no arg add. Oh yeah, right. Okay. Well, that's wacky. So here's a runtime exception that happened when It's like I don't still understand why I didn't get that. No, actually, no, I do understand that. So what happened is that while it was here on line 19. So if we go to line 19, actually I'm on it. Okay, it's saying, hey, you tried to add using the one argument add. You just can't add a one argument add to a dock panel. You forgot to put in that you wanted to add to the south. Thanks, GWT. Okay, now it's much happier. Oh, look, there's save and play. Okay, so now we want to do something when the button is clicked. You guys remember what to do? Add click list. Yeah, add click handler. New click handler. Okay. So here's okay. And so what we want to do, we want to say save level to server and display player, as in something that will play the game and play game. Okay, so what do we need to do here? Okay, so there's two things going on. Save level to server and there's playing game. Okay, to server means that we're going to need that service. We're going to need that GWT service. Now things are getting interesting. So I guess first of all, what we need to do is we need to contemplate the interface, the API between the client and the server. So to create the so if I go back to my so I'm going to need to use some of my Pac-Man kata classes. And you may not remember, but like the way mine works is that there is a level builder class, which still a builder, and then from that you can create a level. So first of all, I'm going to need the code for all of that stuff. I'm going to quick save this off because we're about to do some stuff. So it's like, okay, add a button to save the level and play the game. Okay, we're not even close to being done yet, but we'll save that off. Okay, now I need to go get the code from my from the Pac-Man kata. Okay, I'm going to stop GWT here because I'm going to stop GWT here. Now, so far we've just been working on the client side, right? Oh, yay! And so GWT development mode has been our friend. All you need to do is reload. When you start working on the server, you don't have that same kind of reload functionality. So I'm going to be starting and stopping GWT development mode a couple of times here. But first, I need to get the classes where I want them. So I'm going to copy from my Pac-Man kata the source main Java edu. Okay, right. Sean and I were working on this, and so we've got a whole bunch of stuff right here. You can go back to sleep, Sean. It's okay. And he's tired. He was up late working on his GWT project. We're going to put that into now our project here. I'm just going to copy over everything, and then I'm going to use IntelliJ to move and rename everything because what I need to do is any code that's going to be shared between the client and the server, it needs to be in the client package. So I need to move some packages around. It's kind of lame. So I'll put that there. I also now I want my tests. I have unit tests that I wrote for this stuff, and I want to put those into my GWT project because they'll be run by Maven when I run them. When I build Maven. Because right now I only have source main and I have source test. So now I want copy -r source test to source. Okay, now I've got some new stuff, right? And so if I do git status dot, cool, I've got some things. I'm going to instead refresh here, a couple inversion files, among all this other crap. Great, here's the stuff here. So I'm going to add both of these to revision control, Now let's see here, 5 files. I'm going to turn off this thing. These all look like, yep, those are my 4 source files and 1 test file. So I'm going to go off and commit this. I'm going to say add Pac-Man kata, Pac-Man business logic, I don't even call it, from the other kata. So move all my Java code over. Oh, 2 errors. What doesn't it like? Unused import. Oh, yeah, right. For some reason, this guy, I did that. I don't need that anymore. Let's rerun it. Can I rerun it? No. What is that? Auto scroll source. Let's try it again. So actually, probably what I should do then is I should do the clean package to see if everything compiles and that everything runs. So there it ran my tests. Yay! And it's still, it's going off and it's building GWT slowly. What steps?
Why is that?
All the permutations?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mentioned this briefly last time and probably say it very quickly, but so GWT optimizes its JavaScript for your browser. And optimizes means maybe it's faster optimized, and maybe it's like makes it work on your browser if your browser is IE8, right? So it targets the JavaScript to several browser platforms, and that's what. And so by default, there are 6 permutations. They're like 6 popular browsers, and it's not really browser. It's like is it WebKit? Is it Gecko? Right? It's the engine that's targeting. But yeah, that's it, and it's all successful. Good deal. Okay, so now let's commit those off. Pac-Man kata, commit. Okay, now I need to move some things around. So let's see here. This is always fun to watch Dave do something intelligent. Okay, so luckily I can just like drag and drop all these guys into my client directory there. Move classes to that. Yes, search for comments and strings and text occurrences. Go for it. Okay, everybody looks pretty happy there. Let's check the. Okay, so level test needs to be changed also. So here, I want to move to even the same source root. I wonder what that is. To package C/NJ Whitlock client. And I don't want the source. What happens here? No, actually, I want a different one. I want it in test. Oh, yeah. Well, that's cool. Let's try it that way. Okay, moved into client, level test. It's still like over in the test directory, right? Let's check it out. Imagine spending the first half an hour of class watching me do this when I renamed airline to Pac-Man. Yeah, right. It could be worse. Yeah. It's one of those I was working on last night. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't record this because this is really boring. Okay, so cool. I moved a bunch of stuff around, and let's run GWT. Let's run Maven one more time. We'll go and delete everything, and we'll run the tests. Okay, and it looks like it's in the right package now. Okay, yay! Watching paint dry. Okay, moved package. Okay, now stuff gets interesting. So, here in my, Pac-Man kata. Oh no, in my level editor, when I say save to level and save level to server and play game. Okay, so what I want is first I want to create one of those level builders. Level builder. Oops, wrong. Builder. Builder equals new level builder. And this is where I say add something on there, add line. Okay, so I want to get like each line of the text. So now I need to get stuff out of the text field. Okay. So what the hell is that thing called? It's text area, right? Yeah, text area, get character width, current position, get text. Sure. Okay. Get text. Let's put that into a string called text. And now I want to get each line of text. And here's something cool. So Java has that regular expression library, and GWT lets you use that regular expression library subject to the JavaScript regular expression like syntax and stuff, which is almost exactly the same as Java. And for these purposes, I think it'll be fine because all I'm doing is doing text.split on new line. So, well, actually, wait a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I know that I want to split on a new line because I did this last night, and because I didn't want to look like an idiot. But too late. Okay. Oh, not running GWT. So I'm going to launch debug mode again, just in case I need to attach to it later. Or actually, I have to attach to it now, because I want to set a breakpoint later. Okay, it's all up and running. So I'll reload it slowly. Okay, so now here I'm going to make my simple little board. And what I did was I said, okay, great. I don't know what the text in the text area looks like. Just get it out and print it out so I know what it looks like. So I click Save and Play. Now there's an alert. It's like, oh, okay, look, there are new lines there. Okay. So now if I split on the new line, and this is one way to debug, right? Just throw up a JavaScript alert. So string lines equals text dot split on a new line. Oops. What was that? And for string line in lines builder dot add line. Okay. So now I've got a builder. And now I want to take this builder, send it to the server, and say, hey, go create a new level with this builder and give it back to me so I can play it. So now I need to call the service. Okie dokie. So I could do the GWT create here. And that would be okay. But what I really want to do is I want to pass it into this guy. So GWT the GWT create. So the Pac-Man async service, the async interface. I only ever need one of them, right? It's a stateless object. It should be a singleton. It's just out there. I use it all the time. So I want to create it once in my program and then pass it in to people. This is using the dependency injection design pattern, which there is a screencast on that if you have a couple spare hours this week, I recommend you check out. It's really cool stuff, and it'll help you write better tests. But anyway, so I want to have service dot, and I want to create a new field. This is going to be Pac-Man service async. Actually, I think I'll call it async. No, I'll call it service. Okay, and I want to say add a constructor parameter for it. Sure. And default value is null for the time being, so that I can do it. Refactor. Okay, so now I've got the service. I'm going to go look for my usage of this and pass in the async. What's it called? I don't have it. I will move it out here. Just make it final. Oh, make it final that way. By the way, have you? I think, yeah, someone was mentioning that they'd run into this. When you have what's that purple? When you have a local variable of a function that's referenced inside an inner class, it has to be final. A local variable or a parameter. It has to be final. I don't want to go into details of why it is, but you'll notice that your code won't compile, IntelliJ will complain unless you make a local variable final that you use inside an inner class. And I'm going to call that service. Okay. So I create the GWT. I create the async service out here. I pass it into my level editor. This guy isn't happy about something. Oh yeah, service. Okay, so right now I just got my ping. Not very useful. What I want to have one is called create level. And I'm going to send it in my builder. And what I'm going to get back is the level that's created. So that's going to be a new async callback. Excuse me. Yeah, async callback. Async callback of a level. Cool. On failure, we're just going to do a window.alert. And throwable.getMessage, sure. On success, we're just going to do a window.alert. The level.toString. Oh, actually, no, not toString. Draw to. We're going to draw the level to a string builder. Sorry, draw to string builder. And then have this be the string builder to string. Okay, so what is this going to do? When it calls create level, it's going to say, oh great, I got this builder. I'm going to send it off to the server. The server is going to go create the level and send it back. Remember, this is an asynchronous callback, so it's not. So this guy will return before, well, this method call. So the code down here will execute before the result from the server comes back. Most likely, actually, definitely before, because Java's single-threaded. JavaScript is single-threaded. And what we do, well, if something goes wrong, we'll throw an exception. If something goes right, we will create a string builder. This is back on the client side. Create a string builder and then render the level to that, and we'll just do a window.alert for the time being. Okay. Before I go any further, the async callback stuff, does that make sense to people? We saw a little bit of it last week. Did you guys have a chance to work with it this week? No, I'm seeing some no's. Okay.
Yeah, so if you don't have a return value, then you just do async callback without the level in brackets.
It would be, I think async call a void is really how that works.
Didn't want to. I tried putting void in,
yeah.
and it didn't want.
It didn't.
It
oh,
just,
interesting.
What worked was just async callback parentheses.
Oh, without a type? Okay.
And then on success, it wanted me to put in just a generic
object. Okay. Yeah, so that's probably the raw type. If that's what the compiler wants. Hey, who am I to argue with the GWT compiler? Yeah. Right. This is so this is sort of like the price that you pay for the magic. Well, this is one of the prices that you pay for the magic GWT remote procedure calling. One is that the programming model looks a little different than you're used to, right? So when up until now, when we call a method, you call a method, and then the next instruction isn't, so you call the method, and you don't go on to the next instruction, you don't go on to the next statement until the method returns. Well, here, because you are so when you call create level, what you're really doing is calling something on the server side. And because of that, that might take a long time, or actually more importantly, because JavaScript is single-threaded, the thread that is handling the button click, in this case, you want it to finish its work and then go on to the next event. So maybe someone's clicked another button, or someone's added some text or whatever like that, to handle those things and not have to wait for the server to return the value. So instead what you do is you say, hey, create level, go kick off that call to the server. I'm going to go do other things, and then when I get around, when the value does come back from the server, invoke the on success or on failure of this async callback that I give you. Let's build it out a little bit more, because in order to do this, right, you need like the async, but then you also need the service interface and the service info, all of that good stuff. And so let's walk through that now, and then we'll have all the pieces parts together, and we can step through in the debugger. Okay, so this guy doesn't exist. We'll create the method create level. It's saying, okay, great. So here on the async, it always returns void because the return value isn't ready yet. Yep, sure, builder, sure, yep, async callback level. Super exciting. Callback. Okay. So I just created the method. It's still complaining about something I was complaining about. Method create level does not have corresponding asynchronous variant. Synchronous variant. Right. So IntelliJ is smart enough to know that the Pac-Man service async corresponds to the Pac-Man service, and Pac-Man service does not have. It only has the ping method. It does not have the create level method. Okay. Thank you, IntelliJ. Would you fix that for me? Sure, I'd be happy to, Dave.
What does callback do there?
Callback is what? Sorry, what?
Yeah, at the very end.
So the callback is the thing that receives. Well, I mean. Oh, sorry. Wait a second. One more. I mean, it's this thing, right? So on the signature of the method, right? Here is a declaration of the method here in the interface, right?
Oh, I see. That's just a variable name.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. This is just a variable, right? It's the name of the parameter. That's for the method. So now it's like, hey, create a synchronous variant for this method, please. And it's smart enough to know that it takes this parameter, just builder, and then the last, I guess by convention, the last parameter is the async callback. So it says, okay, great, the synchronous variant, meaning the server-side variant, will return a level. And sure enough, it created this create level that takes your builder and returns a level. Okay, swell. So now, this is the server-side class, Pac-Man service, right? Extends this remote service, dude, of GWTs. Pac-Man service. But okay, so now right now I have an interface method. It doesn't actually do anything. Well, now I need to make it do something. I go down to the implementation. Sorry, click on this little down arrow right here. It goes to the implementation of that interface, and it's complaining. It's like, why? Because there is a method that you have inherited from that interface that you haven't implemented. Well, IntelliJ, would you implement it for me? Sure, Dave. Okay, you went through puberty in the last 5 minutes. And okay, so now you're creating level. So now I'm implementing this create level. This is on the server side. And so what do I need to do here? I'm going to return builder.create. So I'm going to create my level. So the example might be a little contrived, but like there's stuff that happens on the server side, stuff that happens on the client side. This is happening on the server side. Okay, well, swell. Let's see if everything compiles. So I'm going to, and I can reload. Actually, let's see what happens when it reloads. Yeah, it complains about all sorts of stuff. It's saying, oh look, deferred binding failed for something you can't read. Pac-Man service, did you forget to hire or inherit require module? No, I forgot to recompile. So now we are back in the land of having to, where development mode doesn't really help us all that much. So we are going to, I'm just going to clean. This is why you want to start get your server side code sort of running on its own, making sure all of it works, and then spend, it's all sorts of a whole bunch of things. Oh yes, right. Okay, I think a couple of you guys saw this too. Okay, so back to the code. Okay, so here I am. I'm in client-side code. I'm in my level editor. I'm calling the async service. I'm saying create level. I'm passing in this builder. Okay, so this is JavaScript code. It's compiled in JavaScript code. There's a JavaScript object that represents your builder. And it needs to make a call back to the server over HTTP. HTTP speaks text. You have a JavaScript object. Okay, you need to take that JavaScript object and convert it into text. In the Java world, the process by taking an object and turning it into bytes is called serialization. So the whole idea is I've got an object, right? An object is an object, right? It's got methods, it's got fields, those fields have values, it's got names of everything like that. And that's the object. And you want, but you want to turn that into a byte array so that you can send it someplace, or you can write to disk or whatever. And so there is this API called serialization that uses reflection to go and pick apart your object and sort of figure out, okay, here's sort of what the class looks like, and here it's got these fields, here the value of the fields, I'm going to write those out as bytes too. Sort of all this magic for you so you can take an object, write out to bytes, and then on the other end, there's something called deserialization, which takes the bytes and reads it into an object. GWT has something similar, that takes that object in JavaScript, turns it into text, which is then posted to a URL on the server side, your service URL, and then on the server side, there is a servlet, actually what you're inheriting from in the remote service servlet is the logic that takes that text and turns it into Java objects that are then delivered to your method right here. So there's essentially some reflection going on because in the payload of that request, it says, oh, hey, GWT service URL, would you please go invoke the create level method with this serialized level builder object? And so the remote service servlet knows how to take all that stuff, decode it, turn it into Java objects, and then use reflection to invoke this method right here. So you've got to be able to serialize objects. All this object serialization happens underneath the covers. Now there's a lot of magic here, but there's one particular piece of magic that that GWT makes you do, and that's the following. That's what it's complaining about right here. I want to compile it. It says, okay, great, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to compile your module, I'm trying to rebind stuff, blah, 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 blah. And it says, okay, I'm generating a client proxy for remote service interface, the Pac-Man service. So I'm looking at your Pac-Man service, and I notice that it's got a method that takes this level builder thing. Now, level builder doesn't say that it's serializable. So in GWT, you've got to explicitly mark your classes that go between the client and the server, so either stuff that is sent in parameters down from a client to the server or is returned from the server to the client as serializable. You can either have it implement an interface that GWT provides called isSerializable, or you can have it use the standard Java I/O serializable marker interface. Okay. So now what we've got to do, so what this is telling me is that I've got to go add some more, I've got to add some interfaces to all of this stuff that's being used here by my class, by my service. So level, I need to have it implement serializable. Implement serializable. Okay. And builder needs to implement serializable. Okay, cool. And isn't it nice that the GWT tells you about this compile time instead of runtime? Okay, so I'll build it again. Run the tests.
So the company's not smart enough to pick up on these bad things.
Apparently not. Yeah, so that's kind of unfortunate. Oh, more errors. Now, what is it saying? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, look at that. Level is not default instantiable. It must have a zero argument constructor or no constructors at all. It has no custom serializer. Okay, so level. Let's look at level. Level builder, level. It's complaining about something. Oh, serializable classes should have public no-arg constructors. That's right. So pretend you are the GWT remote service servlet that is getting this payload. It's like, hey, here's this object, and here's all of its fields, and here's what their names are, and here's what their values are, and you want to create one of these objects in Java. Well, what do? You have to invoke a zero-argument constructor. And level, when we built it, doesn't have a zero-argument constructor. It only has a constructor that takes a char. And it's got a bunch of final fields and stuff like that, which I think will also prove to be problematic. But we're learning here, so okay, IntelliJ is complaining that this serializable class doesn't have a public zero-argument constructor. So I'll go ahead and add one. And oh, wow, the world lights up because you've got final fields. And this zero-argument constructor doesn't do anything with your final fields. Well, okay. These final fields were nice because, like, grid, I just pass in the constructor and it doesn't change. And same thing with the Pac-Man, there's only ever one of them. I found that you could either try to go through a bunch of hoops to try to keep these final, or just sort of admit that, hey, now that it's serializable, I've got created via reflection, and I need to sort of back off on my desire to use final fields, as well as take them out. Okay, so now it's happy about that. It's also complaining something about Pac-Man. What is it saying? Oh, Pac-Man is not serializable. And that's right. I've made the level serializable, so I've told Java, hey, use your default magic to turn a level into bytes. And what is it going to do? It's going to say, great, I'm serializable. I will look at each one of your fields and I'll write them out to a byte stream. Okay, I know how to write a character, a two-dimensional character array to a byte stream. Great. Pac-Man, what the hell is a Pac-Man? And it's like, okay, he doesn't know about it because it's not serializable. Okay, so now I got to make this serializable. Oh, it's not letting me do it for me? Okay. Pac-Man implements serializable. And I bet it's complain about zero argument constructor. Okay. Oofed. Okay. But now it's happy. Why isn't complaint?
You don't put anything in constructors?
No, because what deserialization does is one of the first things in the stream is the name of the class. It reads, oh, name of the class, okay, great. Use reflection to get the zero argument constructor for that class, call new instance, and then just go through every field and say, and then the next thing on the stream is like, here's the direction, okay, and direction is an enum, and all enums are serializable. And so it just...
So it doesn't call the regular constructor, but it calls the no argument, it fills the arguments manually.
Yes, exactly. Now you could have the zero argument constructor do stuff, and GWT serialization has some options for customization. But boy, if you really want to geek out on something, go read the serialization spec because there's all sorts of magical things that you can do in serializing objects. But that's for the advanced Java course. And anyway, okay. Almost time for another break. Let's make some more progress here, though. Okay, well, let's see here. IntelliJ isn't complaining about anything. Let's see about Maven. Are you happy now? Really? Thinking, a little further. Oh, right there. Oh, 5 for impatience. Okay. Okay. So let's run GWT. We'll debug later. Actually, no, I lied. I do want to debug, don't I? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. No, really Control C it. There we go. Okay, and now attach to IntelliJ so it can do its thing. Origin GWT, complaint don't exist anymore. Okay. Reload. It's loading. It's loading. Okay. So click save and play. It's that. Sorry. So is that? Here's how I'll know that it really went to the server, because it'll fill in dots. The server side will fill in dots. We got dots! Okay, wow. Let's debug and see what it did. I'm impressed. Okay, so let's debug on the, we'll start on the client side and then move to the server side. Oh, we'll go to the level editor. Okay, so we'll set a breakpoint right, yeah, we'll set a breakpoint, yeah, we'll set a breakpoint right there. We'll set a breakpoint right here. We will go to the server side, and the only place to set a breakpoint is on the server. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay, click the button. Okay, so here we are debugging our client-side code. I've clicked the button. It's gone and created. It's gotten the text out of the text field. It's gone and created the builder. It's got all the stuff in the builder. It's got this builder object. And okay, I'm going to go call the asynchronous service. So I'm just going to continue debugging. Okay, now it hits the breakpoint on the server side. So it's gone through, it's made the HTTP call, done all the magic serialization, deserialization, everything like that, and now you're back in your code again. Okay, great. So now I've got the builder, and it's now we've got a Java object instead of JavaScript object. It's that same one that you sent over before, and now I just call create. And now I'm back on the on success because everything was happy. And I'm going to create my string builder. I'm going to populate with the stuff from the level, and I'm going to do a window.alert, continue on, and that's it. So, nice thing about GWT development mode is that you can set breakpoints and stop and debug all of this stuff. Any questions on that? This is one of the trickier things in GWT. And so if you're like, wow, look, I have to use this async callback, it seems a little confusing. It is. It's different. But I think once you get the hang of it, it'll work well for you.
So everything in between has to be serializable, and that just means they have to have an empty constructor.
And implement the serializable interface. Yeah. which means that you'll need to go back. Actually, you might not need to implement serializable because I think the abstract classes, like the abstract airline, the abstract flight, do. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hey, don't say I never did anything for you. Like give you a really tough GWT quiz, apparently. Anyway. Anything else? Got one more thing I want to show you. Let me commit this code off. Changes. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Implement the create level functionality and make a whole bunch of stuff serializable. Okay. So, what happens when my board is messed up? Okay, yeah, I'm stopping here. When I do this, oh, I'm off in exception land because there was some exception that was thrown. Oh, look, I get a pop that says there was a server error. Oh, this sucks. And so I spent some time debugging this last night, and I was like super disappointed that I couldn't get a decent stack trace on the client. I mean, I just didn't try hard enough because I thought GWT purported to have decent stack traces on the client, and maybe it was because I was running in dev mode, and that would be better in web mode, in deployment mode. Okay, what happened here? What happened was I sent an invalid board on the server side. When you call create and the like you get no, it just got an exception, and so like I sent bad data in, and on the server side it threw an illegal state exception, and so that gets sent back to the client as a 500 like internal server error, and that's it. So it didn't blow up, it didn't shut down the server or anything.
Using system exit.
Yeah. Okay.
Handling logic and actually shut down the server.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. Unless you shut it down, so mistaken user error. No, it should survive it just fine. The problem is that I have like no idea. Like debugging that, it was like super hard. And what I really just wanted to see is like, hey, I just want to see like what exception was thrown. Well, apparently, let's see if I can remember this off the top of my head. There is a method that you can override in your server. So let's see here. Process call. Serialization policy before. Oh wait, there it is. Do unexpected failure. Of course, and yeah, I had to like Stack Overflow this one. So if there is an uncaught exception, it'll get, but before the 500 is sent back, this method gets invoked. And so what you can do then is say, hey, system, actually, well, you can just say e.printStackTrace to system.error. Remember, this is on the server side. Call the superclass is call the inherited method to make sure that like the 500 gets set and everything like that. And now when I have to go and redeploy, debug again. But now when I get that server side exception, I will get something written out to standard error at least. So that's good. So it's like completely invalid. No, actually that might be valid. So here, I'll set a breakpoint here. Yep, so here I am. So now, if I go back to up here, oh look, now this is where I can see my legal state exception, error at line, blah, 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 expected with. So, okay, good. So, like, this actually, I didn't know about this, and this helped me out a lot because now I was able to figure out that server-side exception. So anyway, that's one to grow on. And I added an issue to the on GitHub to for the next time to update the archetype so that the ping service now will have that logic too. Look at all those smiling faces that are so excited about this. Okay. I think that tells me that it's time for break. So I'm going to commit this. Let's take 10 minutes, come back at 8 o'clock, and we'll finish up looking at the board for actually playing the Pac-Man game. Yeah, let me stop the recording real quick.